Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is the finals of the Kung Fu Cup. Spawning right here in the upper left, playing in red, we have none other than Clem, of course joined by the Polar Bear on the main command center. His opponent, down at the bottom right, representing on-site, we are looking at Shin's main hedge. A best of 5 series between two of the very best in the game. Now this particular match is played for the lion's share of 441 bucks. It's because of the currency exchange rate. So the Kung Fu Cup, it's organized by the Chinese community and they do a really cool job. They've been putting on a lot of awesome events lately. This particular one being online. It's a weekly event, but they've been organizing a lot of offline tournaments too. Recently, actually, and I sadly, I've got the replays, but it's like not the most recent up-to-date patch. Maybe I should still go ahead and cast some of the games. But recently, they organized like an all-stars type of event where they invited a lot of players from back in the day too. I think it would be fun to have a look at some of those games. Let me know if you're interested in that. But either way, this is going to be a pool first right here for Shin, going up against the good old Barracks on the high ground. This matchup has been changed quite a bit on the new patch, right? We've already seen that like the absolute late game may have been, a bit unplayable for Terran as of late. Going Mass Ghost turns out to be a very big gas bottleneck. So if you ever get to like a maxed out split map type of scenario, Terran does seem to fall short ever so slightly. It's a bit too early to say because we haven't seen too many of those games that really go the distance. But I wouldn't be surprised if Clem wants to play a little bit more of an active style, because that very passive mass command center approach, it does seem to be a little bit weaker on the latest version of the StarCraft 2 patch. And of course, this is played on that latest version. Maybe at some point we'll see some more hotfixes as well. Slowly but surely, though, it seems like a lot of people have come to accept how things are going. But I would not be surprised if we're going to see, like for example, like a small larva spawn rate adjustment on the hatcheries. That really seems to give Zerg the slight upper hand right now. A lot of it is overblown, though. Like, there's a lot of drama currently. If you visit the Reddit or the Battle.net forums or whatever, people have very strong opinions on where balance is currently at. I find it kind of ironic, because talking to a lot of the pro gamers as well at Home Story Cup, for example, they don't really know exactly where balance is currently at. But your random Gold League competitors on Reddit do seem to have very strong opinions, and they do know what balance is currently like. I always find that very funny. Now, all the pro gamers are basically in agreement that Zerg seems to be a little bit too strong, potentially, but that it's really a bit too early to make any true harsh claims. At least that's the majority of them. Obviously, some of the pro gamers also do enjoy a little bit of balance whining from time to time. It makes sense, though, when your livelihood is on the line, right? You gotta try your absolute best to be neutral, but it's very difficult, I think, to be impartial. Either way, what's really nice about the spawning pool first, compared to the hatchery first, is that you get that queen out a bit quicker. So we did see an adjustment on the Reaper build time. It basically was just a little bit too difficult, it seemed, for Zerg players to defend early on against the very first Reaper in SC2. So they've adjusted it down a little, but I think with a pool first, you're gonna be okay. And in this particular instance, you can see that this Reaper is not really able to achieve much. What's also kind of nice with that quick queen is that you can get, obviously, the injects going real fast, and you really don't lose a lot of larva. And you can do things like, for example, this. We're going very quick lair, so this is still metabolic boost first, but this is still a very fast lair, all things considered. Triple command center opener in the meantime on the other side of the map. Clem has been favoring a lot of double CC openers, so 2 command center, 1-1-1. This is a little bit different, so this is triple command center, what appears to be 2-1-1. So 2 barracks, 1 factory, and then I'm sure a starport in just a moment. I think we're probably only going to be able to afford, 2 Hellions here. And then he's going to be swapping it over with the barracks. Start pumping out the Marines 3 at a time, and then we'll have a starport added into the mix momentarily. The 2 Hellions are kind of nice, but they're mostly just good at cleaning up a little bit of creep. We are on Rainfall for map number 1 here, a pretty standard map. Nothing all too crazy now that Metabolic Boost is done. Got a feeling that... Ooh, okay. Shin thought it was bait. I've got a feeling that Reaper's days are numbered. I think Shin assumed that the Hellions would be behind it already. Look at this, though. It's a very quick lair to be rushing up towards a Hydra den? Okay. We did see a +1 armor timing attack from Cyril against Clem, actually. Not too long ago. That was on the previous patch, a few months ago. Very curious game of StarCraft, really curious series of StarCraft is what that was. But yeah, maybe that's what we've got here again. So +1 carapace, it is a little bit cheaper now. 50 minerals and 50 gas shaved off the price, making it the exact same cost now as the +1 missile and the +1 melee. Hydras, though, usually they benefit from the +1 attack upgrade more because they're glass cannons, right? They deal a lot of damage. So usually leaning into the damage output is really nice. But what's sweet about the armor upgrade is that it also benefits Zerglings and in like straight up battles against siege tanks and, for example, Marines. You can definitely notice that the Hydras last a little bit longer. So this is 54 drones right here for Shin, 4 gas, and then just mass Hydra link production. He also sees the move out over here with 2 additional Medivacs on the left side. Hellion going back home, or the 2 Hellions here together with that Reaper. So far, by the way, that was the first blood in this game. Only a single Zergling has gone down. Should be a very easy defense, though, against this particular push. But is he going to see the Hydras? Yeah, Clem is going to see the Hydras. And this is going to be a little bit confusing. As a Terran, you would be more... I think you would be suspecting Mutalisk play a little bit more frequently here. Or potentially like a really quick Hive rush. But a Zerg player rushing out Hydra Link is a little bit weird. I do believe that things like, for example, Widow Mines are not as useful because Hydras actually outrange Widow Mines. Now, Widow Mines do fire a little bit quicker, and obviously they're still really good as well against Zerglings. But it's something to take into consideration. I think siege tanks would be preferable. Nice drop over here, though, by Clem. Double stimming by accident, if I'm not mistaken. Queens end up going down, but the stims here are really going to hurt. He's going to have to pick up and get on out of there. Here's the Zerg push, though, moving out. So these upgrades are lined up. Look at that. It's a Hydralisk timing attack. So let's see how this goes. Clem is currently pretty far ahead as far as economy goes. But is he prepared against a Hydra timing? This is something we've never really seen before, other than like a one-off game on Tourmaline at the time. He's just here to snipe the command center. What? Wait a second. Wait a second. What is this, Shin? It's a full Hydra timing attack. And it's working. 1-1 for Clem is quite a ways behind. He's not going to be able to win the fight with just Marines alone. Huh? What's kind of sick here is that Shin was not really messed with very much, nor did he particularly try to scout what the opponent was going for. We should probably have an Overseer. Don't mind that, but I guess this also works. He decided to go for this strategy and just send it. He's just sniping another command center. Look at this. He's just right-clicking this CC. The damage output of Hydras is so high that it really doesn't matter very much. Even if Clem stabilizes from this point, I still think he's in a world of trouble. Shin may very well have to back up, but... I mean, it's also because he was droning behind it. Now he's going back to unit production once more. There's not enough units here, Clem. What a game. So, GG gets called. GG well played even gets called. Clem scans the third base, sees the full saturation, and he decides to tap out. Very curious. It's, I think, really just a viable strategy because all the timings have changed a little bit. The +1 armor being a bit cheaper allows Zerg to effectively get an additional Hydralisk out. Obviously, the worker start is also going to just sort of change all of the moments in the game, just a tad. And I guess the way that the strategies line up allows Hydras to, for just a moment, be really powerful. I'm really not sure if they can work in the long run, but it's one of those strategies that Terrans will have to keep in mind. If you don't respect the Hydralisk, apparently, they can suddenly hit you in the face. It's very ironic, right? Because Hydras, I think for most Zerg players, are kind of considered to be, kind of weak. Maybe not quite as weak as, like, say, a Swarm Host or, for example, a Brute Lord. Those are extremely niche. But most of the time, the Hydra really gets considered as like a baby lurker. Baby lurker is, nice to have. especially when you want to play late game, but usually it's Hydralink Bane into Lurkers that makes Hydralisks really powerful. Not just like 90% Hydras and then a bunch of Zerglings on the back of it. So I think the way he decided to go for Zerglings, by the way, was just when he ran out of gas. So you run out of gas, and that's when you decide to add on some Zerglings as well. Obviously, since they're fast, they can sort of meet up with the army on the other side of the map, and yeah, it worked out brilliantly there for Shin. Certainly, if you're a Zerg player on the ladder, certainly a build that I think you want to keep in mind, because that's a very easy strategy to execute. Command center on the low ground here, nice and early once more for Clem. And this time around, we are mixing things up. So there's no third command center, but this is a straight triple Rex. As far as I could tell, and maybe I missed it, but I don't believe Shin went for a scout at all. The main problem that Clem ran into was that his upgrades were kind of late, right? At least relative to that +1 carapace. If that fight would have taken place with 1-1 upgrades for the Marines done, it would have more than likely ended in a Terran advantage. But there was that like minute or so where Clem didn't have his upgrades done yet, Shin did, and that's why the Hydralisks, at the very least as far as I can tell, were so effective. It's one of the cool things though about this patch, right? Like strategies that have been written off for years, yeah, may suddenly be viable again. We've seen this a bunch lately. Now that the week has been, or now that the patch rather has been out for a week, maybe 2 weeks or so. Now that the dust is settling a little bit, it seems, and it's a little too early. So we have a super quick lair, by the way, here for Shin this time around. Not even a metabolic boost. No, he did go metabolic boost. Never mind. Wait, this is a super quick lair. Did he just leave the drones in gas for longer? Okay, now we're rushing up to Aspire. So this is a very similar build, at least if you're in Clem's shoes. You scout this and you're like, okay, yeah, everything seems identical. But this time around, it's a Spire rather than a Hydra than an Evo Chamber. Okay. So a little bit of a different flavor of Zerg, but also something that Terran does have to respect. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, though, it does seem that maybe Terran got the short end of the stick with the new patch. Initially, everybody was thinking Protoss is the one that got adjusted a little too much. At least in the first week or so of tournaments, it seems that Terran is not performing as well as they would have liked to. Then again, though, Clem is still doing phenomenally. But a lot of other Terrans out there, even like, for example, Maru, they dropped a ton of MMR on the ladder. Only really time will tell whether or not that's something that is going to be the new normal or not. We don't have a Baneling Nest done. This is kind of weird. Stimpack and Combat Shields are finished. Keep in mind that there's no Medivacs with this type of attack. It's a straight triple Rex. Kind of weird, right? I mean, what were we hoping for? That Zerg didn't make any units? He killed 22 Zerglings and an Overlord. Fine. But I don't love this. Eventually, there will be Medivacs. But this is off of 2 command centers. So, Clem really is... I mean, this kind of feels to me like a rage quit in the making. You know? Maybe I'm wrong. But Clem has been kind of ragey on the ladder lately. He's been leaving games without a GG. This is like, well, I tried variety, but it didn't work. I don't really like this push very much. I think the experimentation is cool, don't get me wrong. But this is absolutely not going anywhere for the Terran. I mean, he needs to do something with this army, because otherwise he's gonna be... Well, he's gonna be flying to his own death here momentarily. Speaking of flying to their own deaths, think those Mutas? Okay, as long as there's nothing really attacking them, they're gonna be able to put in a lot of work. The rest of the Terran army also coming back home now. Yeah, there's enough Mutas here to actually be dealing with the Mutas reasonably well. Normally, I think 5 SCV losses is kind of excusable. No target firing there by Clem. Normally, I think 5 is okay, but... Oh, this is nice. This is nice. Okay, well, you know what? Look at him. Look at Clem dancing with the Marines after the Mutas died. Okay, well, now suddenly I think this game is a whole lot better for the Terran, but... Up until this point, I don't think it's particularly great for him. Getting a little Mutalisk donation, though, really does help. Problem is, of course, that you can never really rely on that. Mistake there from Shin. Pretty sloppy mistake as well, if you ask me, because he knew that there were Marines out on the map. and that they were no longer on the perimeter of the creep. So they very likely were going to go into a little bit of an interception. Third command center, in the meantime, of course, was made in the natural. We're finally going to be able to fly that one over. Orbital command is going to start up. Baneling speed, in the meantime, is done, though. There's a Widow Mine. There is a Widow Mine. Ooh, Widow Mine also dealing a bunch of friendly fire. Again, we have new Mutalisks out. Good target firing onto the Banelings. New Banelings are showing up, though. Yeah, and this kind of feels like the best case scenario for Clem. And the best case scenario is kind of terrible, right? I don't think this strategy is it. At least not against the one that Shin has gone for. Ooh, nice Widow Mine. Again, dealing a bunch of friendly fire, too. Allowing those SCVs to get nibbled on. Just about 1 HP from death. Shin has decided to forego this base over here in favor of the one a little further away. Kind of interesting. Still a playable spot, though, here for Clem. Armory coming up. Second engineering bay as well. Factory is getting a little tech lab on top of itself. That is the second factory, so we should be going into the drilling claws upgrade in just a moment. Zerglings going for a cheeky little run-by. This hatchery is in trouble, but Clem does not know about the hatch. No cancel. He does not know about the hatch over on the right. And that could become really... that moment where you realize you're not Cyril. That could become a bit of an issue. Bunker is set up. Roly-poly Banelings are going to be trying to make their way towards that mineral line in a second. Mutas pick off another stray Medivac, it seems. 2-2 coming up right now for Shin. Yeah, this is one of those games where you kind of notice that the players are unfamiliar, right, with the new patch. Because all things considered, this feels like a much lower level game than what they're normally capable of. And I don't mean that with any real disrespect, but I'm sure they would agree with that too, you know? Like Shin and Clem are known to play phenomenal StarCraft, but this feels like they're both just kind of pressing the buttons and trying their absolute best. 0 creep spread as well for Shin here. How many queens do we have? Oh, that's why. Okay, we have only 4 queens. I think this is actually Shin trying out the build order that we saw Elaser go for at Home Story Cup, actually. So Elaser played some games too against Clem, where this is a strategy that worked out for him. But it's a very, very quick lair that allows him very quick mutas. Hatchery is going to go down again, I think. Maybe not. Oh my god. Well, I'm not so sure. Here's the additional part of the Zerg, though, showing up. One of the Widow Mines not quite burrowed, or maybe unburrowed in time. Hatchery did die. Looks like we have a full trade out of the armies. Clem right now, though, with a pretty stellar economy and the 4th command center on the back of this as well. I don't think he can be all too unhappy. 14 Mutalisks have died in this game. Okay. 2-2 coming up for both players. I'm actually very impressed with how Clem has navigated all of this. Because I really thought the early game was pretty horrendous for him. But this is really not too bad. Partially also, though, due to the fact that Shin is not going up to a hive. So it's the world's fastest lair. But then a refusal to go up towards hive. And that's where he is going to draw dead in the long run. He needs to start up an infestation pit sooner rather than later. It's also because of the 4 queens, though, or now 5, that we have such bad creep spread. There's like 1 tumor out in the middle lane, but it's allowing Clem this constant aggression. Now, Clem actually believes he's got a timing attack here. These, though, will cancel each other out. Shin also believes he's got a timing attack here. But again, obviously that's not working out. We have 1 Thor in the mix. Ooh, Thor. Oh my god, the Muta's clumped up. Thor gets a ton of splash damage done. And Clem does win this very strange game. Next up, a Rorschach. Game number 3 in his best of 5. It's a win for Clem, but it's one of those games that I don't think he's particularly happy with. I can pretty much picture him shaking his head after that win. That's when, you know, the pro gamers are feeling a little bit out of it. It happens all the time at offline tournaments or whenever we have like an online event with player camps. Sometimes there's a win, and I think you know what that feels like, right? It's like sometimes you win the game, but you're not really happy with how the win went, and I think that probably was one of them. I highly doubt we're going to be seeing a 2cc triple Rex again. It just seems too easy to hold. Because you have 3 Barracks, and then you make a lot of Marines, and it gets countered by Zerglings with speed. Like, basically what you're hoping for is that the Zerg player doesn't see what you're doing in, like, the first 5 minutes of the game and doesn't bother making any units. You need, like 30 Lings against that, I think, and you'll never lose to a push like it, and it's a big early game eco drop. Already we have a little bit of deviation, second gas coming up as well here for Clem, so I think this is going to be his more conventional approach. Ooh, nice. Okay, Jimmy does die in the end. Lenny the Ling, though, is not going to make it for much longer either. Ooh, Steve the SCV. Get him, Steve. Drill him in the mouth. Okay, you know what? We should actually not be chasing. Yeah. We should really go back to mining. Because there's no reason to be losing any additional mining time. Hellions are going to be here in just a moment. Tech Lab added into the mix as well. So this is what we saw Clem play most of the time at Home Story Cup against Zerg. So it's a 2 command center, double gas, 1-1-1. Usually Hellion Banshee, but you could also go Hellion Liberator. There's a bunch of variety that you can go for, but this seems to be the new standard in this particular matchup. Very quick lair yet again here for Shin. So it's this, like, triple queen lair build. Kinda weird, right? He did get Zergling speed once more. I would kinda like to see him go for the same build that he went for in game number 1. So that was like 57 drones or so, or 54 drones, whatever it was. I think 4 gas, just pure Hydra Link. You do need some Zerglings here defensively to deal with the Hellions, but as long as he gets Spore Crawlers down in time, I think he should be fine. This is a powerful build, though, for Clem against this particular push, because Hellion Banshee usually gets cleaned up by queens. And since this is a triple hatch build, and we only have 3 queens, it's going to be kind of difficult to afford anything, right? Like, he needs, I think, a round of queens here on top of it. We're going Spire again. Fair enough. It's the same build as in game 2. Obviously, Mutas, together with, like, an Overseer, for example, are really good as well at cleaning everything in the early game up. But you really want to be using Mutas offensively, not so much defensively, I don't think. So this could be another one of those interesting mismatches. 1 drone gets roasted. Not enough Zerglings, though. Nah, not enough Zerglings, not enough queens. Good movement here by Clem. Any creep tumor that he kills, by the way, at this point is huge. We saw how little creep there was in that previous game, so any way for him to, like, deny this is massive. That's a kill. Yep. Normally when you have, like, 6, maybe 7 queens, doesn't really matter. There's a lot more Zerglings available now, though. Ooh, careful, Clem. Don't get surrounded. Kind of messy. Okay. Banshees, in the meantime, do go in. We already had a little bit of a skirmish, it seems, because one of them did take a bunch of damage. There's a Spore Crawler inside of the main base. Overseer inside of the main base, too. Easy snipe right here for Shin. Wow, Clem, that was actually really bad. Some of the sloppiest micro here from Clem, actually, over the last minute that I've seen in a bit. We have the +1 flyer upgrade coming up for Shin. Much better spot, though, for Shin this time around. Even though he killed all of those Marines. Actually, no. No, I think this spot is slightly worse for him than what we had in the previous game. But he lost all of the Mutalisks after they left the main base of the Terran. This time around, we do have Widow Mines, Marines, and missile turrets for base defense. Marines are just straight up dying, though. That was like 1 Mutalisk for, like, what? Maybe 6, 7 Marines? Banshee over here on the right side. Hellions over here are gonna get surrounded. That'll be the end of the Hellions. 8 Marines actually in total. One of them, of course, killed by Lenny in the early game. Hey, it's full HP. It's one of the weirdest changes they ever made to StarCraft, man. This was like a year or maybe 2 years ago, where they made it so that the supply depot drop insta-heals the depot. This was when Terran was kind of overperforming a bit, and the community sort of lost their shit for a bit. It wasn't ideal. Obviously, one of the least significant changes. Okay. So, what do we do moving forward? I do really like to see, though, Mutas again in this matchup, right? Like, at least in my mind, Mutaling Bane is the iconic mid-game unit composition for Zerg. And it really hasn't been a thing very much over maybe the last 5 years. This new patch has brought them back in full force. It's gonna create a much more active meta if they are indeed here to stay. It also shifts the momentum a lot, though, right? Like, normally it's Terran right now who's going around bullying the Zerg. But in this particular instance, it's the polar opposite. Clem's very good, though, at this type of playstyle. We should really have Overlord speed and a couple of Overseers. Just so he can actually, yeah, go around the map. Okay, he does have Overseer speed. So he can start sniping those Creep Tumors, or Creep Tumors, those Widow Mines.
Evolution complete.
Oh.
So old school.
That is the Diva announcer, of course, that Shin plays with. Upgrade complete! Whatever she says. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I should do a Loko does Diva announcer pack for StarCraft. How about that? You're all out of minerals, but there's plenty of rocks! Who wouldn't play with that? Zerglings going into the third base. That'll be the end of the missile turret. Yeah, this is bad, though, for Clem. I don't really like this. Widow Mine in the main base. Spotted by Shin. Not going to be flying through. Mutas really are kind of oppressive now, huh? Yeah. These little flippy flappies. So they gave 2 buffs to the Mutas. On top of the 2 buffs that we had in the patch prior to this. So the patch that we had prior to this made the Spire cheaper and quicker to build. That really does help. But secondly, for this particular patch, we've had 2 changes. So first off, something called Arc Slop. It basically just makes the unit a little bit easier to micro. Secondly, though, the bounces of the Muta, so the Muta attacks, it bounces twice. They now prioritize units over buildings. All of it in isolation isn't that big of a deal, but I think those 4 changes combined make the Muta a very viable choice, assuming you have about 500 APM. That's the only little asterisk next to this. Scary push yet again. Widow Mines are good, man, but they're kind of struggling here. This base at the front... Yeah, Clem is kind of just crossing his fingers now, hoping that the Widow Mines connect. It's working out for him so far. But yeah, if you're an Arc Slop enjoyer, this is your time to shine. Arc Sloppers all over the world are loving it. We did have a little bit of a Zergling Baneling roll-by, it seems, over at that third. Ooh, Drilling Claws gets tonight. I'm a bit of an Arc Slop enjoyer myself. I'm not gonna lie. There's dozens of us. In the meantime, because Shin has full map control, he's decided to take this risky base all the way at the top of the map. Clem is busy trying to not die. He has no clue about the base up north, although that's some suspicious Zergling movement. Got a feeling that Clem can figure out indeed that that Zergling could only ever be coming from the north. Still, though, he needs to be careful. His Marine count is very low. Yeah, there's like 2 Zerglings for every Marine, and then a whole lot of Mutas as well, and Banelings. 3-3 coming up. That's usually the main price that you pay as a Zerg player when you do go for quick Mutas. You're not going to be able to get your Evolution Chamber upgrades nearly as quickly, but I don't think this is the end of the world. Shin may be only about a half minute behind. Scan indeed up north does reveal now what's going on. Widow Mines do connect though, and that's sweet. Still, it's a lot of dead Widow Mines. 19 Widow Mines for 10 Mutalisks. And again, as a Terran, you don't have a ton of control over your Widow Mines. Sometimes they even deal friendly fire. Seems like on the new patch, actually, more often than not. There is a Baneling Nest, or sorry, a Planetary Fortress. Basically the Terran Baneling Nest. Set up over here at the 4th. Looks like there's a fight going on up north that Zerg will win. Fight over here down south that Zerg will also win. But this is all more expensive for the Zerg player. New command center already ready to take the place of the old one. And I think if we look at the resources lost, yeah, it's gonna start looking better for Terran over time. Shin is at 85 workers. Obviously, he's got golden minerals coming in. That does help a lot in this kind of situation. But it's important here for the Zerg to not overpush, because Clem is an absolute world-class Terran. His micro is spicy. His macro is likewise also very strong. It's a lot of dead Widow Mines, though. Yeah, super expensive for the Terran to be losing that many of them. Drilling Claws, second attempt at it coming up yet again. Planetary Fortress number 2 not yet done. This is going to give Shin a moment to strike. Planetary actually gets cancelled, just like the Hydras earlier. Mutas are just right-clicked straight onto the CC. Banelings are rolling through. Banelings are rolling through. Okay. That's the end of the command center, though, and a lot of SCVs, too. Extremely narrow margins, though. Shin is playing this out really well. But I've got a feeling if we play this type of situation 10 times, we're going to see 50% of the time the game going in favor of the Terran from this position. Scans reveal right now that Zerg is indeed at Hive Tech. He will have spotted the Ultralisk Cavern as well in the main base. Adrenal Glands coming up, +3/+3 researching. Huge power spike for Shin in about 2 minutes from now. Clem's got 3-3. It's done. This is when he needs to strike. Oh my god, the Zergling run by is kind of perfect, though. If this is going to trigger the Terran to go back home, I think it'll probably be the end of the world. At least for Clem in this game. Clem knows he can't really back up. He knows that Ultras are on the horizon, but these Zergling run-bys are very painful. Shin is welcoming the lost hatchery here, I'm pretty sure. But if Terran goes onto creep, yeah, he may as well test the waters. GG well played yet again here by the Terran. Shin gets another win on the board. Next up, we find ourselves on Fear and Faith. This is a 4-player map. I mean, at the very least, we're going to get a very aesthetic engagement here. With the Marine statue in the middle. I'm really not sure how good a double Rex opener is on the new patch. I've got a feeling it's not that great, to be honest. Pool first yet again, by the way, here for Shin, which is just about perfect. He's got Overlords going to the corner, so since this is a map with 4 spawn locations, the first Overlord is also... well, it's always going to go to one of the corners, and then the second one to the alternative one. That way, Zergs can figure out if it's a cross spawn, top spawn, or, well, horizontal spawn. We generally do not see drone scouting, so Clem is going to be able to get away with this for free. But how good is this really? It's a gasless start, a very greedy opener here by Clem, who's still just at 14 supply right now. Very low SCV count. So, yeah, he now needs to figure out whether or not this is a cross spawn or not, right? Like, he needs to know where the Zerg is. He's going to see the Overlord, which I think will give him all the info he really needs. Did he even see the Overlord? Yeah. He must have. So we are indeed going to go to far bottom right. But it's a pool first. And this is another reason why mixing in pool first is so bloody good. Hatchery first may be ever so slightly better, and slightly better as far as efficiency goes on the larva. But I really don't mind this position here for Shin at all. Looks to me, though, that he's actually going to respect this properly. He gives up, I think, on the low ground and goes Roach Warren and second gas. So this seems to me like a Ravager transition. And it's fine. Yeah, I think he's just going to leave this hatchery here as like a giant tank. Just here to soak up a lot of damage. Drones do need to be pulled as the Marines get a little bit adventurous. Good decision here by Clem, actually. So Shin is reading this correctly. He saw the timing of those Marines and he's like, wait a second. This is a SCV cutter, right? Like, he's cutting SCVs in order to pull this push off. Problem is, though, that now Shin is going to be able to keep the Natural alive. Roaches are coming. He's mineral walking. Okay. Queen dies. Did this just work? I mean, the Marines are not really going to be dealing a lot more damage on the back of this. Oh, you know what we're doing? Double tech lab into Marauders. Okay. Drones coming back in here for Shin. This has just turned into a very strange game. Nice micro there by the Terran. Worker count is going back up here for Shin. Clem has not really been building that many SCVs of his own. Mostly because he can't really afford them. Now that the mule is out, though, life is going to be a bit easier here for the French Terran player. Yeah, not enough HP on those Marines. Okay. So when do the Marauders come in? No concussive shells or anything like it. This is obviously really good against Roaches and Ravagers specifically. But in a pinch, if Zerg sniffs this out, you can just make a bunch of slow Zerglings and be totally fine. Shindo not really thinking about Zerglings at the moment. Okay, he's adding some of them in right now. He must have spotted something. Maybe he's just a bit suspicious. Clem has done this before in other games too. Nice corrosive balls. Oh my god, those Marauders mean business. He now sees no concussive shells. That was one Marauder down the drain. That's soon going to be two Marauders down the drain. Yeah, I don't really like this here for Terran. It's a desperation play, right? Especially on a 4-player map. It's a little bit crazy. I really like that Clem is experimenting with things like this, but I don't think this is the right map to be doing it on. I guess you're least likely to get spotted, but even with the proxy in the middle, it still takes like 30 seconds for those units to get into the Zerg base. Shin could go Metabolic Boost, by the way. Metabolic Boost would 100% shut this down, and I don't think Clem really is gonna even really attempt it, right? Like, to transition away from this particular push. Now he starts it. I don't disagree. Overextension, though, here by the Zerg. The problem is that it's just so difficult to kill Lynx. How do you kill the Lynx? I also think we should have gone concussive shells already. It's a cheap upgrade. Oh, he does have it. Okay, I was going to say. It's very important to have. He did go for it. So what do we do now, Clem? I think Zerg just makes non-stop Zerglings now, right? Yeah, we're going to see probably about 50 Lynx here. This is a map, by the way, that you can wall with two structures like that. 2 supply depots in this instance. It's kind of funky. What happens when Link speed finishes? Apparently Hellion's inside of the main base. Shin sees it. Keep in mind, this is still one command center Terran, right? It's not like Terran really has a whole lot of economy here. Clem actually overproducing workers. 26 SCVs on one base is a bit too much. We're gonna have one fight left in us here as the Terran. Zerg's gonna be able to run away with this over the next few minutes if you're not careful, but Shin decides to take matters into his own hands. Big Zerglings around on all of the Marauders. Hellions do join in. Shin does not care. He wants to go after the Marauders. He knows that once they're gone, Queens and Roaches alone will be able to save mostly everything. This is way better for the Terran, though, than I thought it was going to be. I actually thought this was going to be worse. We could even... Dude, I wonder if we could have afforded, like, a armory. Armories are really not that expensive. Like, a Marine Cheese into a Hellbat Marauder Medivac all-in? We see those pushes all the time in regular macro games. I wonder, man. Wait, can Clem actually turn this around? I really didn't think this was starting off too well for him, but he's really putting in the work now. Speedlings, though, are so difficult to deal with. This high ground ramp is also allowing the Zerg a little bit of an advantage. Concussive shells, though, do indeed connect with one of the Ravagers. A lot of very low HP units. Medivac also forced to be microed backwards. Keep in mind that Queens ultimately did not get their cost reduction. So they're still kind of pricey. But I think they're still worth their weight in gold here in these type of fights. Medivac is so low, the Queens want to reach it, but it's just barely out of range. In the meantime, it's a dead even worker count, but since there's a lot more, well, mineral fields available here for the Zerg player, I like the position economically for him a lot better. Medivac ends up going down. So many red HP Terran units. Okay, maybe I wrote this off too soon. I really thought that this was gonna get cleaned out as soon as Metabolic Boost finishes up. I think it is ultimately going to be Shin who obtains the victory here, and this indeed seals the deal. But that particular fight had a lot more life in it than I thought it was going to have. And honestly, if we would have had an armory at home, it's not that expensive. He could have certainly afforded it. I wonder what this game would have looked like. Like, we could do Marine Cheese into Marauder follow-up when you see the Roach Ravagers, right? And then Hellion Hellbat on the back of it. I wonder if that could have worked out. Either way, this is exactly the variety, right? That's the word that's been going around a lot. The V word that a lot of Zerg players and Terran players and Protoss players hate. But this is exactly the variety that the new patch was supposed to introduce. Didn't work out for Clem this time around, but I've got a feeling there's another level of refinement that can be added on top of this threat.